Good morning, students. How are you all? I hope all of you are doing well. A hearty welcome to today's English class. We have been learning the fifth lesson from the movements, The Happy Prince. In the last class, we have seen that the Happy Prince, he was covered with golden leaves and he had precious stones in his eyes and also on the sword of his sword. Then, from remaining at the center of the city, he could see the miseries, the sufferings of the people, and he was weeping for them. And now one swallow happened to pass through that way and come to take shelter at the feet of this happy prince. So the happy prince, the swallow was about to go to Egypt, but the swallow requested him to stay back and be his messenger and to do a charity for a poor woman who was suffering, who was very poor and whose son was suffering from fever, and she could not buy and give him anything. He was asking for oranges, but she was able to give only river water. Now the happy prince asked the swallow to remove the ruby from the hilt of his sword and give it to this woman. So the swallow picked this ruby stone and went to the woman's house and kept it on her table. And he came back after accomplishing his commission, the work that had given to him, and came and told the happy prince about how he had traveled and what he had done. And then next day he was trying to fly to Egypt. So next day he went the river, took a bath and got ready. And he was about to leave, he went and said to the happy prince. Again the happy prince pleaded him to stay back for one more day and to be his messenger. And he said that far away in a garret, there is a playwright, a poor man sitting, and he was so tired because of the cold, he could not complete the work that he had been doing, so, because he did not have money to buy firewood. So he asked him to take a sapphire that was in his size, one of his size, and go to this man and give this sapphire, this precious stone to him so that he may complete his work. Accordingly, the swallow picked one sapphire and went to this garret and kept it on the table of that man who was writing the play. And he came back and he told him, this man, when he opened his eyes, he found that it was there was a precious stone, and he thought that people started to appreciate his work and someone had rewarded him, gifted him. So he was very happy to complete his work. So far we have learned in the last class. The next day the swallow flew down to the harbour. He sat on the mast of a large vessel and watched the sailors working. "I am going to Egypt," cried the swallow, but nobody minded, and when the moon rose, he flew back to the happy prince. So next day he flew down to the harbour. Harbour is the seaport. And he sat on the mast. Mast is a tall upright post on a ship or a boat. So he sat on this mast of a large vessel. Vessel is a ship here. So on a ship, mast of a ship, he was remaining and he was watching the sailors working. And he cried, I am going to Egypt. He was so excited, so this time he was crying and he found that no one was responding to him. Nobody was minding him for what he was telling. So when it was evening, when the moon rose, he flew back to the happy prince. I have come to bid you goodbye, he cried. Swallow, swallow, little swallow, said the prince, will you not stay with me one night longer? So he said that he had come to say goodbye to the happy prince. Again the happy prince pleaded him to stay back for one more night and to accomplish and to carry out a task. It is winter, answered the swallow, and the snow will soon be here. In Egypt, the sun is warm on the green palm trees, and the crocodiles lie in the mud and look lazily about them. So he said he has to go because it is winter, getting very cold, and he cannot remain. And in Egypt, it is very warm, and he has to fly to Egypt, where the crocodiles lie in the mud. They lie in the sand and enjoy the warmth of the sun and look lazily about them. And he can go and to be with his friends there. In the square below, said the happy prince, there stands a little March girl. She has let her marches fall in the gutter and they are all spoiled. So again the happy prince told him in the square means the city, and where stands a little March girl. She was crying. She was crying and she was standing there because her marches fall in the gutter and they are all spoiled. The matchboxes fell down in the gutter and they are all spoiled. Her father will beat her if she does not bring home some money, and she is crying because she had gone to sell these matches, but all the way it fell in the gutter and got spoiled. And now if she goes back to home, her father will beat her without money. Because she was not ready to go back. And she is crying. She has no shoes or stockings and her little head is bare. Pluck out my other eye and give it to her, and her father will not beat her. So the happy prince asked this swallow to pluck out his second eye and give the precious stone to this girl, so that she can sell it and take the money to home, so that her father will not beat her. I will stay with you one night longer, said the swallow, but I cannot pluck out your eye. You would be quite blind then. So again, the swallow agreed to stay back for one more night, but he was hesitating to pluck out the second eye because the happy prince would become blind, totally blind. Swallow, swallow, little swallow, said the prince, do as I command you. Again the prince told him to do according to what he says. So he plucked out the prince's other eye and darted down with it. So he plucked out the second eye of the prince and darted means moved rapidly or quickly down with it. He moved quickly with it. He swooped past the March girl and slipped the jewel into the palm of her hand. Swooped means to move very quickly. So he moved very quickly and dropped slipped this jewel into her palm, into the palm of her hand. What a lovely bit of glass, cried the little girl, and she ran home laughing. So she was very happy. She did not understand that it was a precious stone, but she was excited. With that she ran back home laughing. Then the swallow came back to the prince. You are blind now, he said, so I will stay with you always. The swallow was very understanding and he flew back to the happy prince and told he is not ready to go to Egypt any longer because the happy prince had become blind totally. So he agreed to stay with him always. No, little swallow, said the poor prince, you must go away to Egypt. No, I will stay with you always, said the swallow, and he slept at the prince's feet. So the prince was not happy that he stayed back, so asked the swallow to go away. But he was not ready to go because the happy prince had become blind now. So that night he slept at the feet of this happy prince. All the next day he sat on the prince's shoulder and told him stories of what he had seen in strange lands. So the next day he sat on the prince's shoulder and he was explaining him from there what he could see in the town, the stories of what he had seen in the strange lands. Dear little swallow, said the prince, you tell me of marvelous things, but more marvelous than anything is the suffering of men and women. There is no mystery so great as misery. Fly over my city, little swallow, and tell me what you see there. Now the prince could not see any longer, so he requested the swallow to fly around this city and see the misery of the people, then to come and tell him about it. So the swallow flew over the great city and saw the rich making merry in their beautiful houses, while the beggars were sitting at the gates. So what he noticed at first was the rich people were making merry out of their happiness in their beautiful houses, while the beggars were sitting at the gates begging. He flew into dark lanes and saw the white faces of starving children looking out listlessly at the black streets. So he flew into dark lanes where the poor people lived and saw the white faces of the starving children looking out listlessly. Listlessly means lacking energy or enthusiasm. Because they had not eaten, they were so hungry and poor. Their face was looking very pale. That is white it is written. So they were sitting at the black street. Black street means narrow, small streets. Under the archway of a bridge, two little boys were lying in each other's arms to try and keep themselves warm. How hungry we are, they said. You must not lie here, shouted the watchman, and they wandered out into the rain. Now it was raining, and this swallow noticed that two little boys, they were feeling so cold, so they were lying in each other's arms and trying to keep themselves warm. And they said how hungry we are. They were so hungry. Meanwhile, a watchman from a big bungalow came out and shouted at them, chased them away and asked them to go away from that place. And they wandered out in the rain. Then he flew back and told the prince what he had seen. So at the end of the day, he flew back to the happy prince and told him what he had seen. I am covered with fine gold, said the prince. You must take it off leaf by leaf and give it to the poor. The living always think that gold can make them happy. So again, the prince told the swallow that he is covered with the gold leaves. So asked him to take out a leaf, a golden leaf, and go and give to these children who are hungry. And these poor people, they become happy by seeing the gold, Leaf after leaf of the fine gold the swallow picked off till the happy prince looked quite dull and grey. So one after the other, he removed this leaf, golden leaf from this happy prince's body, and now he looked very dull and grey. Leaf after leaf of the fine gold he brought to the poor, and the children's faces grew rosier, and they laughed and played in the street. We have bread now, they cried. So he was taking this gold leaf and going and giving to the poor children, and they were happy. They sold it and they bought bread, and they were very happy that they could quench their thirst and satisfy their hunger. Then the snow came, and after the snow came the frost. The streets looked as if they were made of silver. Everybody went about in furs, and the little boys wore scarlet caps and skated on the ice. Then the severe winter came. First there was snow, afterwards frost appeared, and the streets were covered with this frost and looking silver, like made as if they were made of silver. And everybody, all the people were going in furs, wearing thick woolen clothes. And they were wearing scarlet caps. The little children, they were wearing scarlet caps, and they skated on the ice. The poor little swallow grew colder and colder, but he would not leave the prince. He loved him too well. He picked up crumbs outside the baker's door when the baker was not looking, and tried to keep himself warm by flapping his wings. So the little swallow was feeling very cold, and he always remained at the feet of this prince, and because he loved the prince because of his charitable work. He picked up crumbs for his food. He used to go to baker's shop, and when the baker was not looking, he picked up the crumbs, the bread crumbs, and he satisfied his hunger. And he tried to keep himself warm by flapping his wings. But at last he flew that he was going to die. He knew that. At last, by the time he was very tired and hungry, and he was feeling very cold, he knew that he was going to die. He had just enough strength to fly up to the prince's shoulder once more. So once more he went and sat on the prince's shoulder. "Goodbye, dear prince," he murmured. "Will you let me kiss your hand?" He knew that he was going to die, so he said goodbye to prince, and he asked whether he can kiss his hand once. "I am glad that you are going to Egypt at last, little swallow." So the prince thought that he was flying to Egypt. Said the prince, "You have stayed too long here, but you must kiss me on the lips, for I love you." So he thought that before going to Egypt, he thought that the swallow was going to Egypt. So before going, please give me a kiss on my lips, because he loves him. "It is not to Egypt that I am going," said the swallow. "I am going to the house of death. Death is the brother of sleep, is he not?" So the swallow said he is not going to Egypt, but he is going to the house of death. He is going to die soon, because death is the brother of sleep, he said. And he kissed the happy prince on the lips and fell down dead at his feet. He gave a kiss to the happy prince on his lips, and he fell down dead. At that moment, a curious crack sounded inside the statue, as if something had broken. The fact is that the leaden heart had snapped right in two. It certainly was a dreadfully hard frost. So, the moment the swallow died and fell down, the heart of the prince was broken into two pieces. Though he had a leaden heart, it broke into two pieces out of his sadness. Early the next morning, the mayor was walking in the square below in company with the town councillors. As they passed the column, he looked up at the statue. Dear me, how shabby the happy prince looks, he said. Now, early next morning, the mayor was taking a round. He was walking around to the town, and he came near to the this happy prince statue. He had along with him his councillors, and he told the councillors how shabby this happy prince was looking. How shabby indeed, cried the town councillors, who always agreed with the mayor, and they went up to look at it. So both this mayor and the councillors went close to this statue to look at it. The ruby has fallen out of his sword, his eyes are gold, and he is golden no longer, said the mayor. In fact, he is little better than a beggar. So, the mayor said that the ruby has fallen from his sword, and his eyes, the precious stones are removed from his eyes, and all the golden leaves that were covered on his body was removed. Now he is no longer golden, and he is little better than a beggar. That means he looked like a beggar, he said. Little better than a beggar, said the town councillors. They too agreed. The town councillors also agreed that he was little better than a beggar. And here is actually a dead bird at his feet, continued the mayor. Again he saw that a dead bird at his feet. We must really issue a proclamation that birds are not to be allowed to die here. And the town clerk made a note of the suggestion. Then the mayor said that we should give or issue a proclamation that birds should not birds should not die there. They are not allowed to die there in a town, in the center of the town like that. So the town clerk he wrote down the points, the suggestion that was given. So they pulled down the statue of the happy prince. As he is no longer beautiful, he is no longer useful, said the art professor at the university. So what did they do? He was not at all looking beautiful, so they removed this ugly statue from there, and they tried to throw it away. Then they melted the statue in a furnace. They gave the statue in a furnace. You kept it in a furnace and tried to melt it. What a strange thing, said the overseer of the workmen at the foundry. Foundry is a workshop or a factory where they were trying to melt this statue. So the overseer means the person who supervises the work. He found that this statue was not melting at all. It remained hard. This broken leg heart will not melt in the furnace. It was not melting in the furnace. We must throw it away. So they threw it on a dust heap where the dead swallow was also lying. They removed this statue and threw it in a dust heap where this dead swallow was lying. Bring me the two most precious things in the city, said God to one of his angels. Said the angel, and the angel brought him the leaden heart and the dead bird. Now the God sent one of his angels to bring two most precious things in the city, and he found this the dead body of this swallow and the precious statue that was laying, the statue of this happy prince. You have rightly chosen, said God, for in my garden of paradise this little bird shall sing forevermore, forevermore, and in my city of God the happy prince shall praise me. So the God was very much pleased with the angel that he brought this the happy statue of the happy prince and the dead bird, and he appreciated his work, and he said that in his paradise, this little bird will sing forever. And also the happy prince shall praise God forever. So both the swallow and the prince perished for a noble cause, for a great doing good for the people, charity for the people, they perished. But their death was not the end. They did not die and stop there, but it made them immortal. That means they live forever in the paradise, both the bird and the prince. That is why the angels selected this dead swallow and the lifeless statue of this happy prince, because they lived their life for a noble cause. So this is the story, and what is the moral of the story is that the outward beauty is not important, it is nothing. What is important is love and sacrifice. And also it is also one more reality is brought to the friend, that there is great gap between the rich and the poor, the ruled and the ruled, the ruler and the ruled. So students, read the story. Thank you students. Have a nice day.